How can you get the most cash value in your whole life insurance policy? Today, we'll talk about exactly how to do that. First, we'll talk about how a policy can be designed and what design you should go with in order to ensure you have as much cash value as possible. And then second, we'll look at some comparisons of different designs, specifically high cash value life insurance policies compared to what is most commonly sold to individuals. So let's start with the policy design. And what we're going to look at here is an example of someone who wants to fund a policy with $20,000 per year. That is their total desired out-of-pocket. So if you're going to pay $20,000 per year into a policy, that money can go toward one of two areas. It can go toward what is called your base premium or toward what is called your paid up additions rider. Now, dollars that you pay toward the base premium typically produce zero in cash value in the first year and sometimes the first and second year. The reason why is because the insurance company is going to overcharge us for the death benefit up front. Now, as you continue to make that base premium payment, eventually you see it credit to cash value. So it does build cash value, but it takes a long time. Now, the death benefit has a direct relationship to your MEC limit. We'll go through a specific example of this in a moment. The main takeaway here is premium dollars prioritize death benefit first and cash value second, especially when we look at the early years and the guaranteed values on an illustration. Whereas PUA dollars, I like to refer to this as a cash dump-in. And the reason why is because money I add here, guess what? Shows up in cash value, which makes me feel like this. All right. Now this is money that begins to earn dividends and interest. Dollars I add to my PUA rider accelerate the overall cash value growth of my policy. Now they will get me some death benefit as well. For example, if I put $1,000 into my PUA payment, I might see another $3,000 show up in death benefit. So it does buy me some life insurance, but not nearly as much as the premium. And because it only buys me a little bit of life insurance, it has a minimal impact on the MEC limit. So if you were going to pay $20,000 into a policy, where would you want that money to go? Between the premium or the PUA rider? I can tell you where I'd like to put it, toward the PUA rider. Let's start with an example, assuming you put all of that $20,000 toward the base premium. So if you did that, which I would not recommend, what you would see with a traditional whole life insurance policy is zero or very close to zero, and this is specifically in the first year. Might be the first and second year. Now, depending on your age, this will also buy you a lot of life insurance. Let's say it's $1.5 million, which will also have a direct impact on your MEC limit, which might be $45,000. The MEC limit represents the maximum dollar amount you can pay into your policy per year without triggering a taxable event. Why people like whole life insurance, specifically for the cash value, is because the cash value is a safe place to put money. They can access anytime, specifically through loans, and their money keeps compounding when they borrow against it, and it's tax-free if you do everything right. One way to not do it right is if we trigger this MEC. So if you see a policy where you have a $20,000 premium and a $45,000 MEC limit, that means you have the option to put another $25,000 per year into PUAs. Now, with that said, most people would not do this, and I would not recommend it either, because it is not going to give you much cash value at all. It's going to take a long time to see any real cash value buildup. What if you did something like this, though? Let's say you put $10,000 toward the premium, and then $10,000 toward the PUA rider. Then what would things look like? Well, they would look better, but they still wouldn't look great. It'd still be pretty bad relative to what's available. But of that total $20,000 payment, what you would see is about $10,000 in cash value. Depending on the company and product that you select, might be a little bit more, might be a little bit less, but it's going to be about the amount that you pay into the PUA rider. Now the death benefit, do you remember what it was in the first example? It was 1.5 million. Because you cut your premium in half, it's not 20,000, now it's 10,000, your death benefit is cut in half. Which means your MEC limit is, guess what? Also cut in half. So now instead of $45,000, that'd be $22,500, which allows me to put less money into PUAs in addition to my total out-of-pocket of $20K. Making sense? Now, let's say we absolutely juice the policy. We want to get as much cash value as possible, so we push the premium as low as the insurance company will allow. The premium has a direct relationship to the death benefit, which impacts the MEC limit. So let's say of my $20,000, I set the premium at $2,000. And then I put my PUA payment at $18,000. Now what happens? Well, my cash value looks pretty good. $18,000 in the first year. And you're going to see it generates a positive return very early on too. There's a problem with this policy though, which you'll see in the first year, my death benefit might only be $200,000. And when we stop here, everyone always says, I don't care about the death benefit. I'm doing this for the cash value. Totally get it. The problem, however, is that $200,000 death benefit might only give me a $5,000 MEC limit, and the issue is that I'm paying in $20,000. So now that I'm paying in more than what my MEC limit is, I no longer reap the third benefit we mentioned, which is the tax-free piece. So how do I avoid that? Well, in order to get a $20,000 MEC limit, I need to add more death benefit to the policy. One way I can do that is by pushing the premium up again. That don't make sense though, because that takes away from my cash value, especially if my out-of-pocket is $20,000. I'm coming in and saying, this is what I want to pay in. So here's what you can do. Here's the key on this, and this is exactly what corporations do, by the way. So I'm going to keep my PUA at $18,000. My premium, I'm actually going to lower as low as I can to about $1,800. And then I'm going to add this guy down here, which we'll call 1A, a term insurance rider, which the cost might be $200. Will depend on my age, but it's minimal. So what this does for me now is the premium piece does not build any cash value. The term rider piece does not build any cash value. But the PUA piece does build cash value. So I'm at that same $18,000 figure that I was in the last example. But watch this. That premium might give me a death benefit of, call it $180,000. It's always going to vary depending on your product and your age. But say it's 180, and then that term insurance premium might give me another $320,000 in death benefit. Add those two together, you have what? $500,000, which gives us a MEC limit of what? Do you remember what it was in the example where we get a $10,000 premium? $22,500. Adding a term insurance rider is a cheap way to raise the death benefit, which will raise the MEC limit, and it lets me keep my expenses at the absolute minimum. And this is a corporate strategy that we see practiced a lot. When you look at corporations putting a ton of money into cash value life insurance, they're typically getting these policies on their key employees and their executives. The policies are owned by the company, and the cash value is an asset on their balance sheet. They do not want to take a negative hit on the balance sheet. The premium equals negative hit. So what we do is reduce the premium as low as the insurance company will allow, and that's how we maximize our cash value. Corporations do it all the time. Individuals can do it. They're just not always shown it. So before we get into the examples, here's a question that comes up a lot. And I would ask this question if you're meeting with an agent. How low can the base premium be? That is the question I would ask. How low can the base premium be with the company you agent are recommending me? If they say, well, it'll mech or something like that. Nope. I just want to know the insurance company's limits. How low can the base premium be? Ask that question and get the limits from the company. I'll give you a couple examples. Mass Mutual, the base premium, we can typically set it as low as 10%. Meaning if I had a $2,000 base premium, I can fund a total of $20,000. Guardian is about 10%. Can actually get it down to about 9.1% with a lot of the designs we put together, which means if I have a base premium of $1,818 and I add another $18,181, the two together would equal $20,000. So that's pushing it as low as possible. And one thing too, in the first year, you can actually pay 50 times the base premium in PUAs. So I can start with a big lump sum. It's not always 50, but I can go up to that number, which is pretty cool. And then Lafayette does not have a percentage or a multiplier in that respect. They have a limit as far as how low the whole life death benefit, which generates the base premium, can be, and then how much more term you can add to it. Here's the easy way to put it. The lowest I've been able to get that is typically between 3.5% and 5% of the total payment. So if I've got $20,000 going in with Lafayette, if it's 5%, we could get that base down to about $1,000, which is pretty cool. So I would ask that, and here's the other big thing that's really important to be aware of. When you speak with an agent, know that we're literally incentivized to put that premium higher. That's what the insurance company will do. And the company compensation rates will vary quite a bit as well. So when we look at traditional products, an example with Mass Mutual would be called their Whole Life 100. An example with Guardian would be their L99. An example with Lafayette would be their Contender or their Patriot whole life product. On the base premium, here's exactly what we would be paid at our company via commission rates. The first year with Mass, this is with all of the overrides and juice and everything we get, 93.5%. So if I set the premium at 10%, it would be 93.5%, not of $20,000, but of the base premium. See where I'm going? With Guardian, with this L99, be about 85%. And then with Lafayette, we get paid 130%. It's very common to see smaller companies, specifically that don't solicit business in the state of New York, pay much higher commission rates. What we see sometimes that I'm not a big fan of is folks will recommend smaller companies and then also try to recommend a higher base premium. Doesn't make sense because it takes away from the consumer's cash value, but you can see what's going on here with the higher commission rates. Now what's interesting is if you look at different products like a 10-pay, for example, instead of 93.5, it ends up being about 30 to 35% first year on the base premium because I'm seeing more cash value show up. Anyway, let's look at an example, and we're going to go through this fairly quickly. So we've got the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the ugly, because this is what most people are sold when it comes to whole life insurance. What we have here is something very similar to what we just looked at. We've got someone meeting with an agent. They're shown a $1 million death benefit. It's a $20,000 base premium. And here's the cash value, years 1, 10, 20, and 30. Let's take a look at the actual illustration We dropped it on Excel to make things a bit easier. Here we go. Down at 30, year 30 is the $775 in cash value. What's your year one cash value? Goose egg. Nothing to show for it. That's why we call it the ugly. What's highlighted in yellow represents the break-even point. You'll notice that all of the years before that yellow highlighting, you have less in cash value than what your total funding is. Not that attractive. Now, when you look at whole life insurance sales, more than 90% of policies that are sold, that people own, are sold like that. The ugly, because it's just a life insurance policy that's sold that has a high premium, and we eventually see it build cash value. Then we've got the bad, which is definitely a better approach than the ugly, but it's not that attractive. So here, we're pushing the premium as low as we can to prevent the MEC occurring without adding that term rider. We see this a lot, the MEC objection. We hear it a lot where an agent will state, you can't go lower than this on the base premium, because if you do, you will trigger a MEC. No, if we add a term rider, that will prevent it. So here, you've got a $7,500 base, 12.5 PUA, $20,000 per year going in. And if we compare the cash values, compared to the last example, how much better does it look? A lot better. Let's look at a side-by-side. What do you notice? Well, instead of breaking even year 14, we're breaking even way earlier. Here we go. What do you notice? Well, it looks way better. Instead of breaking even in year 14, break even in year 9, meaning our cash value is equal to our total payments. This is the same product with the same company, by the way. Everything's exactly the same. But let's look at the good. So, when we see the good, how good is it? Well, we've got a death benefit, in this particular example, $1 million, premium of about $1,800, term rider, $200, so your true minimum commitment is about $2,000 per year, $18,000 going toward PUAs. First year cash value, $17,500. It's a lot better, isn't it? 10th year, $240, compared to $209 and $162. It's the exact same insurance company. Like, it's all in the design. Year 20, $534, and year 30, $902. The only example of the three that cracked $900,000 where your out of pocket was exactly the same, which was how much? 300 grand. We paid into this only for 15 years. We could go longer, but in this example, we're just going for 15 years to keep it simple, really. So, when's your break-even point? Look at that. Year 4 instead of year 9 or year 14. And then long term, we've got a lot more value as well. And the only thing we're doing here is designing the policy for maximum cash value. That's it. Again, we've got the same company here as we're looking at these options. So, what to do? Well, how do I get a policy with as much cash value as possible? I'll break it down into 2 steps. 1, policy design. That's what we talked about during the first half of this video. How low can you go in the premium? With the top companies, specifically your 4 major mutuals, it's typically right around 10%. Then I would add about 2% toward the term rider. That might be a little bit higher or lower, depending on your age, health, and how much you're paying in. And then put everything else toward the PUA rider. The nice thing about this too is that it's flexible. So you're not billed for this every year. You can set it up that way. So what we see a lot is someone might say, I want to be able to pay in 10 grand per year, but getting a bill for 10 grand is going to stress me out. So we'll set it up where they're billed, if we take the premium and the term, they're billed for $1,200 a year, or $100 a month, and then PUAs, they add at their leisure, which it does depend on the company rules. Guardian, for example, one of the major mutual companies, does allow you to add PUAs at your leisure. Mass Mutual, typically, to make it flexible where you don't run into issues down the road, you can typically make adjustments 1 time per year on your premium due date. But the main takeaway, I would look for a design like this And again, you're going to copy exactly what corporations do. And if you're concerned about the term insurance rider or that getting more expensive over time, I would request to see the guaranteed values. And what I would specifically request is to see that term rider removed after the funding period. If you say, I never want to stop funding, then what I would do is remove the term rider after you stop aggressively funding the PUA rider. If you've done research on that, you know what I mean. Okay, last point here. So step 1, design it for maximum cash value. Step 2, I would always look at one of your 4 major mutual companies, who are Mass Mutual, Guardian, New York Life, and Northwestern Mutual. The simple reason why, aside from the company size, financials, is proof of performance. Where people have buyer's remorse with whole life insurance is when they get a policy, after they look at an illustration, it shows beautiful numbers on paper and it under-delivers. Where we've been able to get proof of policies that are 10, 20, and 30 years old are with those 4 major mutual companies. We also track the performance of policies that we put in place for our clients as well, and we've seen them deliver. Before we recommend other companies, the one thing I always ask for is that proof of performance. Companies that we have here are the companies that I've received it from and what we've seen it firsthand with policies that we've set up. I'm not saying other companies are bad, we just have not seen that. So that's why I always recommend those companies, because we've got proof that they deliver the most cash value to their policyholders. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to see more videos about how to get a whole life insurance policy for as much cash value as possible, or if you'd like to see case studies that show how people use these policies, whether they're just growing their cash value, they're using the cash value and the loan feature for their business, real estate, or if they're in retirement and they're looking to take tax-free income from the policy. We have several case studies on our channel, and we also have them in an organized manner on our website, which you can check out here. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I hope this helps. Thanks so much.